Everybody, my name is Benjamin Bloom. Here we are again. We have reached the end of the Christmas period. Well, nearly one or two more games to go in game round number 26, but in the main, it is all done and we are ready to review. If you've already gone back to work, then watch this on delay. If anyone is around in the stream, do let yourself be known as we go through yesterday's action. 10 games. We had the top two shootout between Leeds and West Brom. We had a 3-2, a 4-0, a 5-2, and a 6-1. We had Millwall going into the top six. We have Borough, Reading, and Forest all in great form. And like I say, tonight, the lesser spotted Wayne Rooney. George says, I know Leeds had 67% possession. Very happy with the performance. Happy New Year to everyone saying that in the feed. And yes, Dean, QPR actually won. They scraped in 6-1, didn't they? There we go. Let's start at the top. It was the big shootout. The title decided. Well, no, it wasn't really in the end. A lot of respect between either side and both settling for a point. West Brom won, Leeds won. I did a full review of this one. I was supposed to be at the game. Problems with my neck yesterday, so I stayed at home and watched two games on the TV instead. But I did still review this one, so check that out elsewhere on the channel. West Brom take the lead. Messi one from Ajayi on 2 minutes. And then an Ajayi own goal. It doesn't go down to Bamford in the end. Bamford comes on at half time, wins the header on the near post, bounces in off Ajayi's shoulder there. Leeds, well, it seemed to be the case of just don't lose. And if you look at it in their two games against West Brom, they've won one and drawn one. They've taken 4 points out of the league leaders. I'm sure they will be very, very happy. And it's looking at the big picture now for the top two. 20 games to go and a 9-point lead. We'll talk a bit about Forest. They've got that game in hand, so it could go down to 6 points. And that game happens before Leeds and West Brom next play. But I'm sure between now and then we're all going to start looking at the fixtures and seeing when the difficult games come up for everybody and when we're going to have the likes of Brentford, Forest, all these teams up at the top of the table playing against Leeds and West Brom. But it's one hell of a lead. We can't ignore the fact that it is a bit of a slowdown for Leeds. 6 points in the last 5 games, but that slows them down to 2 points per game, and that's the same for West Brom. Both of them on 52 points. As George says, the hard Christmas periods all done, and West Brom certainly had some hard games in there. I said on the review yesterday, we saw this with Norwich last season. They had a whole period of hard games, but then as the fixtures opened up, it became easier for them, and they went on that winning run that ultimately got them the title. What we do need to look out for Leeds now, though, is Clark has gone back to Spurs and Ketia has gone back to Arsenal. So some movement likely in the loan market. It's just going to be, I know it's not a hard sell to come and play under Bielsa, but he seems so set on his first 11 that you are basically coming to be a sub and wait for your chance. Andrew says, talk of Che Adams. That'd be perfect, wouldn't it? Absolutely perfect if they could get him. Did damage in the running for Birmingham against Leeds last season. So West Brom, again, they didn't lose. They ticked off another fixture and the gap is maintained. Steve says Che Adams as well. That's very interesting. Big fee Birmingham got for him as well. That would be just the type of signing that I remember when Fulham did bring Mitrovic the first time. When you bring in a really good striker at that level, can make a lot of difference. And Chris says last year it would have been a few lost games. It's a few draws, but I'll still be having kittens come March. That's the Leeds way, isn't it? West Brom also 52 points from 26, so they're both on for the 2 points per game. And given how far back everybody else is, it's looking comfortable. So there we go. Trent says expect Adams to stay in the lower Premier League. West Brom is to slow down to 7 points in 6 games, but let's see if both of these teams open up now as we go into early winter. Leeds first, West Brom second. Remember, FA Cup next week. Bristol City 0, Brentford 4. And certain YouTubers were questioning whether Brentford were any good away. So they've proven me wrong on that one. Nice big 4-0 win there. And Buemo, mistake from Hunt, and Williams gets in his way, and Buemo dinks it in. 10 for the season, 6 in his last 8 for Buemo. Williams gets the red card. I think it's an obvious goal scoring opportunity, but Watkins does hit it a long, long way ahead of himself. So I'm sure the Bristol City fans will have something to say about that. Ben Rama scores after Bentley spills Jensen's shot. Watkins squares it. Ben Rama taps it in. Steve says FA Cup could damage Leeds. Losing at Arsenal could be a good idea. Yeah, if you look at Norwich and Sheffield United, they just got out of it. Trent says Lee Johnson with little man syndrome. At the end of the match, he wasn't happy, was he, at all? We go into the last 10 minutes and it's 3-4. Leather Sandals says Nketiah to score a hat-trick for Arsenal in the FA Cup. That's against Leeds, isn't it? So that would be very, very interesting. Ben Rama, no eyes pass here for the third one. Zambarek crosses to Watkins, and then Watkins again. Bentley saves his header initially, but Watkins smashes in 17 for the season for Ollie Watkins now. Brilliant. Brentford, I've had a look at this. Brentford are brilliant at responding very well to defeats. The last 5 defeats they've had in the league, they've then gone and won the next game, which means that they're outnumbering defeats with victories. It sounds sensible logic, but remember that draws are our enemy, and when you get 2-1 like Brentford are, you can lose every third game and still get 92 points. Terry says Ben Rama's rainbow flick was this emoji. Yeah, Ben Rama, and I think the thing I like about Brentford this year is it's not 100% reliant on Ben Rama now, whereas it was last season, 12 goals and 15 assists or whatever he did, something ridiculous, wasn't it? There's a lot more outlets, and Bremo's getting goals, Watkins getting goals, but De Silva, Jensen, Mokotjo, all contributing in that midfield. So it's not just a case of get him the ball. Brentford winning a lot of games, 10 wins in the last 15 and a draw in there. So 31 points over that period. They're hanging in there if one of the two drops off. And a timely post from Steve there that says Leeds are 20-1 on for promotion. My God. Bristol City, the red card's a big caveat in this one, but the form is still absolutely horrible since they had that good away win at Fulham, 5 defeats in 6. But look at this blooming table, 2 points off the playoffs in 11th place, 5 points off third Bristol City. It is so tight. Some teams need to put some runs together. Dean says Brentford to finish third. I had Brentford and Fulham as the best 2 teams other than Leeds and West Brom, but Brentford do seem to have for a long time now been very consistent. Since Ben Rama started playing well in sort of September, October time, they've, as I said, it's 10 wins in 15. It's a long run of really good form now. So Brentford third, Bristol City 11th. Let's go on. Forest 3, Blackburn 2, and from their rubbish run, Forest seem to have got themselves right back in there. David says, anyone no odds on Leeds to not go up? Probably very, very high. Andrew says, scary third to 11th. Leeds and West Brom both to come to Griffin Park. So there you go. That might be, if Brentford are going to have a miraculous run, that might be where people fall off. James says, I remember Fulham going on a run after Christmas, 14th off the top. I remember that. That was a 20-21 game unbeaten run in 17-18. They really, really went for it with the signing of the Mitrovic, didn't they? Back to Forest 3, Blackburn 2, and Forest right back up in there. And if they win the game in hand, they are the closest to the top 2. Now, Lolly in off the right, bit of a fluky one because Amiobi misses the header and it just drops in the far corner. Only the 4th of the season for Lolly. Lower than expected, but I think this is more Sabri Lamouchi. It's a bit more defensive now, so he's not quite as open. Trent says Forest need 2 or 3 in and another striker this month. Interesting. Graben with a penalty after Walton takes down Lolly. Great penalty, that one right in the corner because Walton goes the right way as well. What a goal by Downing. Check this one out if you can. Armstrong cuts it back and Downing, first touch, cushion, half volley, redirects it into the top corner. You can tell he's played hundreds of Premier League games. Brilliant goal by Downing. And a brilliant goal by Forest, actually. Amiobi, who's capable of this. I saw him do something similar at QPR for a grab and goal, but this one's even better because the cross is in the air. He beats his man, crosses it on the run with the left foot and nods it back. Graben gets his angles perfectly. Trent says, Downing lucky toe poke. Yeah, I think you're doing a bit of an injustice there. But Grabban, very clever striker with his angles and really good header that one. And I would ask the Forest fans, this looks like the most consistent Amiobi's been in his career. So on the one hand, maybe he's taken the edge off Lolly, but he's certainly got Amiobi praying. Dean asked about Forest keeper. That's Bryce Samba, who has been excellent this season. Worrell with an own goal slides that into his own net for a jittery finish. Brilliant 3-game week for Forest. 3 straight victories. Now at the bad run, they're up to 4th position. And as we keep saying, game in hand is coming on the 11th after the FA Cup games, before everybody's played. They could be on 46, 6 points behind. And then you have this scenario: Forest win 2 games straight and Leeds or West Brom lose their next game. And I will click a button here and tell you who it's against. Then it could be down to 3 points within 1 game. West Brom away at Charlton, Leeds at home to Sheffield Wednesday. Unlikely as it seems, it's possible. Andrew says Forest will run out of steam. He seems confident about that. Blackburn, they set themselves up with that amazing run, didn't they? Up to the edges of the playoffs without quite getting in. Form's dropped off badly since then. 2 points in the last 4 games. They're out of the top half, Blackburn. But as we all know, that doesn't mean anything because they're in 13th place, 4 points off the playoffs. There we go. Dean makes a good point that Forest game in hand is against Reading, who are absolutely on fire, as we will discuss in just a minute. Forest 4th, Blackburn 13th. So let's talk about Reading, who are the surprise at the moment, along with Middlesbrough. Fulham 1, Reading 2. Reading keep up this brilliant run. That is a 4-game winning streak they are on. John Swift, he's been freed up by that midfielder. Mr. E just quickly makes a good point on Blackburn. No Dak. No Dak, no party for Blackburn. He is right. Dak is out and they can't catch the form back up, can they? Anyway, back to Reading at Fulham. Swift has been freed up by, of all people, Charlie Adam in the central midfield, going alongside Pele in there, and he's on brilliant form, Swift. Blackett involved in this one, like at Preston again, and Swift tucks it home. Swift, the first goal scorer in all of Reading's last 3 games. He was already the best passer in the team, and he's now adding goals. I had him down in my list of prized assets as their most valuable player, but he's in brilliant form, Swift. He's not that old. I think, was he 24, 25? Someone fact check me that in the feed there. But yeah, real asset now, and just pushed a bit further forward as in the triangle of the middle 3. Really, really effective. So really enjoying John Swift at the moment. Charlie Adam himself scores. Ejaria nicely down the left, puts it across. Adam is free in the box to make it 2-0. Cavaliero gets one back, curls it in on the far post. Let me know in the feed, was that a shot or was that a cross? It was a really good shot if he meant that, or was he just trying to pick the far post out? We know he's capable of that, so we'll give him the benefit of the doubt there, Cavaliero. And Fulham, so inconsistent. I clicked on their home record thinking it was going to be really bad, but it's not. It's the second best in the division, but they've still lost 4 games. So they're just not drawing any home games, but still very all over the place. And you look at a playoff possible campaign, you don't want to be susceptible at home when you're playing in the playoffs. So yeah, not good. Dean says Cavaliero's was a shot, so we'll go with that. So they were off the back of 7 points in 3, but that's also 4 defeats in 7 now. So it's 7 points in 7 for Fulham. Just no one really at the top there other than Brentford, particularly over the last 6 games, is scoring points at a massive rate. Only Brentford there, they got 13, anywhere near the 2 points per game. Everybody else, including the top 2, is under it. Recently, Mr. E says Reading played Forest twice in January. Oh, of course, because of the postponement. That will be an interesting double header. And Fulham, they were the ones that really had the chance to capitalise on the top 2 playing each other. They could have been on 45, knowing that points were going to be dropped. And so if they'd been on 45 and one of Leeds and West Brom had have beaten the other, it would have been a 6-point gap. So really all went the wrong way for Reading. Andrew asks, is Janssen injured for Brentford? I think it might have been Pinnock and Jeanvier, although Pinnock has played himself in there for Brentford. Let's talk about Reading though, because they're absolutely brilliant at the moment. 4 straight wins, miles clear of the relegation line now, 12 points clear. And we've got to talk about Charlie Adam, because when they've rejigged this midfield and brought him in alongside Pele and move Swift forward, and then you've got Blackett and Ajaria down one side and Gunter and Maite down the other. It's working an absolute treat, and this run does start to 6 games ago when Charlie Adam went back into the team. So I know we all joked about his big, huge shorts when he was playing for Stoke last year, and he's 34, but always had a banging left foot, never really been able to run. So seems to be working out quite well under Mark Bowen, doesn't it? And speaking of Mark Bowen, 14 games, 27 points. That is superb. I'm looking at their total. They've got 35, so must have only had 8 points from their first 11 games and then 28 from the next 14. Superb. Fulham 5th, Reading 14th. Millwall 3, Luton 1, and Millwall into the top 6. And if I remember correctly, in 17-18, when they were chasing for the playoffs, they were right up there, but never actually got in there at any point, I don't think. Someone correct me if I'm wrong on that one. But they're in there now in 6th place, Millwall, 40 points. They went behind in this one. Bradley heads home Sheehan set play just before half-time. But big second half by Millwall. Wallace crosses and Smith heads it back. Good big man, little man stuff here. Bradshaw flips the header in. That's his 8th for the season. Great goal by Connor Mahoney. Really good example of a two-footed player here, because he sprints down the middle here on 78, cuts it to the right and smacks it into the corner with his right foot. And then 3 minutes later, it's a brilliant cross on the run with his left foot from Mahoney, and Matt Smith heads in for 3-1. So back-to-back home wins for Millwall, and it just strikes me that they've done 4 wins in 6 games here. So, excuse me when I said about the top 6, they've got 2 points per game. Millwall, they've got 13 from 6. Anyone putting together these runs really is going to push up the table. Little Crow says tactically astute from Rowett, took Pearce off in the first half. Matt Smith played well for once, says Dean. I think he's coming from QPR angle there. 4 wins in 6 for Millwall, 1 defeat in the last 11, 2 defeats in 13 in all under Gary Rowett. So absolutely brilliant. 6th place, 20 games to go. I'm still worried about Neil Harris and his parachute money, trying to go for Jed Wallace or Jake Cooper or someone of that nature, Bielkowski maybe. But looks really, really good for Millwall. You'd love to see them not sell anybody and just get a loan player or some improvement. So there you go. Andrew says Neil Harris leaves Millwall. They play good. Harris joins Cardiff and they start losing. I think Andrew not very high on Neil Harris there. Callum's asking about Sheffield Wednesday, who we are coming on to next, so hold that thought. Luton dropped to the bottom. I'm going to put my depressed voice on for Luton here. Stoke and Wigan, we'll come to in a minute, they're both going to win. Conceded 3 goals in each of the last 3 games. Luton lost 12 out of 16. They either need reinforcements, Luton, or, and I don't really want them to do this, they need to change the system and, pack that midfield out a little bit more than they do. But that's what got them to the party, and are they going to change it? Tough times at Kenilworth Road. Not good to see, but Luton on the bottom of the table. However, they're only 3 points adrift, so a win takes you a long way. But I said before, that bottom 4 is already 4 points adrift, with Huddersfield and Charlton getting picked up now. Millwall 6th, Luton 24. Callum says, don't forget my comments. Send them again because they disappear on my feed as I'm talking here. Because we are going on to Sheffield Wednesday now. Sheffield Wednesday 0, Hull 1. Of course, Jared Bowen scores for Hull. Sweeps home Honeyman's cross. I had the joys of watching these highlights without knowing who'd scored. So I just looked for the number 20 and, oh, there he looked. Yeah, okay, there we go. Of course, Bowen scores again on 61 here. Wednesday, the curse of 3rd place, I'm going to call it. Never mind me cursing Leeds. 3 defeats on the trot after they got themselves into 3rd place. We've seen Bristol City do this, we've seen Fulham do this, we've seen Preston do this as well. Back-to-back home defeats as well. Down they dropped to 7th. I think Callum's, or Collins Callum's, I forget the name on that, comment was he would have easily taken 7th before the start of the season. But Wednesday, they might have a bigger upside, but of course, we've got to talk about the looming FFP judgment there. Hillsborough should be renamed Hullsborough, shares Russ. Do they always win there? I'm not aware of their record there. Wednesday, so they're 7th, but they're still only 4 points behind Brentford in 3rd, and we know that they can put good runs together. Gary Monk knows this division better than anyone, except maybe Gary Rowett. Callum's back. So Wednesday are in bad form, but if you told me 7th, 1 point off, I'd have bit your hand off due to the summer shenanigans. Yeah, totally agree with that. Hull have sneaked their way up to 8th now. Nice little run, 3 wins in 4 games over Christmas. A few defeats in there, but we said about Brentford, draws are your enemy. You can lose games as long as it's 2 wins for every 1 game you lose. You're absolutely fine. You can lose a third of your games and still score 92 points. So that's how it's working out for Brentford, and it's working out for Hull as well. 8 wins in the last 14. Really, really good. That would be a playoff push if they can get in there. But will they get through January with Bowen Grzycki still there? We will find out. Wednesday, 7th. Hull pushed up to 8th now, 1 point off the playoffs. Both of them, yes, I'm right, both on 39. Right, cool. We're going to talk about another Middlesbrough win now. Preston 0, Borough 2. Gestead first start of the season, and he hooks in the opener on 40. A mad own goal by Ben Davies, who miscontrols the long ball. And then he actually scores from outside his own box. He tries to kind of, I guess, poke it just away from the striker and just loses it trying to chase his initial mistake. And it goes past Rudd in the goal there and puts Borough 2-0 up. Preston, another poor run, 2 points from the last 4. And despite those back-to-back wins in the middle against Fulham and Luton, that's only 8 points in the last 10. Callum says, confident with the deduction, I hope it's no more than 10 points. Dean says, what has happened to Preston? Yeah, the form is not good. As I say, 8 points in the last 10. But everybody, all the way down to probably ridiculously anyone in the top half and even lower if they go on a run. It can happen for anyone here. Borough, absolutely sensational here. 4 straight win, 6 wins in 9. Amazing turnaround. 19 points in the last 8 games. They're one of the best teams in the league at the moment, points-wise. And for us metrics buffs, if you remember back at the start of the season, the metrics were always good for Borough, but they just weren't getting the wins. And we know one of 2 things happens in these instances. Callum makes a good point. Preston have lost their clinicalness. They did have a ridiculously high goal conversion rate. But back to Borough, a couple of things happen when the metrics and things aren't adding up. Either you regress and it is defeats after a while, or your performances come up to the metrics, and that is what seems to have happened. So it could be a bit of a triumph for Gibson and Woodgate. I said, Middlesbrough, they're only winning home games against easy teams. Well, not anymore, because they've just won at West Brom and they've won at Preston in consecutive games. So really interested to see how this works. Sometimes when teams click like this, you see a real run. They're in 16th, Borough, and the way they're going, you can only see them heading up the table. Big surprise, big turnaround. Well done, Woodgate, if it continues. Preston 9th, Borough 16th. Swansea versus Charlton is tonight, so we'll move straight on to QPR 6, Cardiff 1. My God, where did this one come from? Right, let's get through these really quickly, because the 3 youngsters we all like for Rangers, Eze, Chair and Samuel, all started and they all played well on the same game, which I don't think has ever happened. So superb stuff here. Eze with a big diagonal. Wells heads in the opener on 19. Samuel, they're taking the mick here. Wells scoops it over, and Samuel half volleys in from the angle with the right foot. Samuel then skins his man, opens up his body, slides that one in. 3 goals, 2 assists in the last 6 for Samuel. He's now putting up numbers similar. I know they'll all be in Eze's shadow probably, but similarly to Eze. After half time, a bit of a lucky one here. Eze miscues the volley, and then Wells heads in his second. Chair with another dribble. The Cardiff defence cannot cope with these dribbling players here. He squares it. And Wells, where am I? Sorry, excuse me. Eze puts it in, finally for his goal. Then Wells gets a hat-trick. Flint with a horrible giveaway there. Wells capitalises. His first goal since November, and he gets 3 in 1 game. Volks scores. Another mistake from Lumley in the goal here. Goes through his hands from distance. So massive hammering for Cardiff, and it looked like it's just a not very mobile team that could not cope with the creativity, the movement, the dribbling of those 3 young guys, including Naki Wells in that. Callum asked about Eze's contract. I do not know. I'd recommend Transfermarkt for that, though, because they do have the contract lengths on there. If he is out of contract, then that could be a summer sale for sure, couldn't it? They're still in the top half, Cardiff, but it's 6 points in the last 6. That will not do. And will they give Neil Harris some of the parachute money? Leeds have QPR on the 18th. Concerned Leeds don't do well in London. Thank you, Andrew. There you go. It's nothing to do with me. Leeds haven't won in London, where I tend to go and watch them, since 2017 against QPR, funnily enough. Even Phil Hay was saying this on the Leeds podcast. Shocked no one's going for Alex Mowat. Says, yeah, very good player. Cham says Eze surely off. There we go. So yeah, brilliant stuff from QPR in this one. It all clicks. And does he now stick with those 3 guys off Wells, and they go for it now? Cardiff 12th, Rangers 15th. Derby versus Barnsley. After I finish this shift here, this live stream, I'm going to go and have a shower. Should go on the exercise bike because I'm overweight and it's New Year, but there we go. And I will be off to see, hopefully, one of England's great footballers, Wayne Rooney, playing for Derby tonight. We'll see if he starts. Hopefully he does, so look out for that later. It's 3:46. I should get a shift on, shouldn't I? Birmingham 2, Wigan 3. Wigan finally get a win, first in 14. My God. Windass sweeps home the opener. Rabti, this is a brilliant goal from Rabti. Slides it into Rabti. I think it's Pedersen who slides it in. Great turn, brilliant first touch, beats his man, fires home from the angle. Check that goal out from Karim Rabti. Superb stuff from the Birmingham striker. Gardner own goal here, less aesthetically pleasing this one. Winders takes around the keeper, bumped in. Kipray then bundles one home for 3-1. Magoma with a brave header makes it 3-2. Birmingham are now entrenched in that bottom 7, and the recent form of Borough and Reading, wins for Stoke and Derby don't help either. They're dropping down the table, Blues. They need to look after their own form anyway. 5 defeats in 6, 1 win in 12, 6 points in the last 12 games, 0.5 points per game for an entire quarter of a season from Birmingham. That is bottom of the league stuff. They need to turn that around. Wigan, well, we were talking about similar points totals to what I've just said for Birmingham, but they've managed to get their win at last. First win in 14 takes them off the bottom. 1 defeat in the last 6 after a run of 4 draws. Remember, draws are your enemy though, especially when you're down the bottom. You just need those 3-pointers. Points going on the board slowly. Some sense with Wigan that they've been quite unlucky, creating chances, conceding late goals, etc. So nice to see them finally get the win there. Is this the launch pad and an away win as well? Can they regain that brilliant home form that they've had for certainly all of last season and the start of this season as well? Blues 18th, they're in there now. Blues and Charlton trending downwards when a lot of teams, maybe Huddersfield, Stoke, Borough, etc., trending upwards. Not a good sign for fans of those teams there. Right, finally, Huddersfield 2, Stoke 5. So many goals. Vokes with the opener from Powell's cross, then Mounier free header from Grant's corner. Own goal from Danny Barr after Butland palms the shot out. Nice finish from Nick Powell from Campbell's cross then. Great goal by Campbell here, but it's a horrible mistake by Grabara. Poor punch. Little touch and he lobs it over. Nice technique, but really bad goalkeeping. Campbell up and under here. Vokes wins it and Campbell gets his second. That's 4-2. And then Lee Gregory from the angle curls it in nicely with the right foot. Beautiful goal there for number 5. Huddersfield, they're on a win-loss, but they get in the wins, aren't they? A 5-point gap from the bottom 3, 4 from Stoke. So a bit of a big 6-pointer loss, because if that goes the other way, then Huddersfield are on 31 and Stoke are on 21. And you're looking at a 4-point gap as opposed to a 10-point gap. I guess that's why we call it a 6-pointer. You don't need to explain that, but could have been a lot different for Huddersfield there. They are picking up wins at a decent enough rate, though. Huddersfield, it doesn't look like a bottom 3 team. Stoke, where did that come from? They got 4, didn't they, in Michael O'Neill's first game at Barnsley, but really good finishing display here. 10 points in the last 6. But the win for Wigan means they're still only 1 point above the drop zone. Could have been a really good day if Wigan had lost at Birmingham. But it looks like you see these W's coming into the Stoke column, 3 in the last 6 games. that they're starting to move in the right direction. The points are coming on. Huddersfield 20th, Stoke 21st. Right, help me out if you are watching in the feed here. I need game of the day first, and we've got some high scorers. The game of the day technically should have been West Brom versus Leeds, but I think they went a bit easy on each other after those yellow cards started coming around in the 67th minute. I suspect I'll go for QPR for the game of the day, just purely for that first half performance and the 3 brilliant goals, 7 goals. But fair arguments for some of the others. Nick says the Bees game, yeah, big away. We've got the red card in that one though, Nick, which is always a caveat to it not being a good game. Goal of the day, Downing maybe, Mrabti, Campbell, the lob, any of the 3 QPR goals. Let's go for Mrabti as the goal of the day. Check that one out. Brilliant touch, really quick feet in the box. Didn't do a lot wrong. Little Crow says Mahoney as well. Yeah, the dribble and finish by Mahoney was good as well. I'll go for Mrabti for Birmingham. Performance of the day, well, there's loads of them. I have to be a softie here and probably go for Wigan finally winning after 14 games, getting the away game. But you could go for Stoke, you could go for QPR, you could go for Borough again. Millwall came back, Reading won away. Loads of big performances. Brentford as well. Josh says Downing's goal was good. Yeah, that was in my list as well. Let's go for Wigan though. We'll have a heart. Give them something down at the bottom. The top scorers had a much better day this game week. None of them scored, did they, last time out? Oh, this is important. Colin says, seeing that Chris Barker passed away, 39. Played for Cardiff, Barnsley, Stoke, QPR and more. Yeah, very, very savage. 39. God, yeah. So I'm sure we'll do a minute's silence at the Derby game for Chris Barker, but yeah, very, very sad. Let's go back to those top scorers though. A lot of them scoring this week. Wells got a hat-trick, so he's up to 11. Now, Grant and Fletcher both on 12. Graben got another 2. He tends to score in 2s, doesn't he? He's got 14. Bowen also scored. He's up to 16. Watkins got another 2. He's up to 17. Mitro stays on 18. Wouldn't it be great to get someone on to 30 goals? Did Pookie get 29 last season? Did Sharp get 29? Colin apologises for dumping that in, but no, we all agree that that's important. We're all football fans, and these guys train day in, day out, devote their lives to entertaining us. So we do need to, mark the passing, especially on a championship channel like this, of someone like Chris Barker. So no problem with that at all, Colin. Right, if anyone has any questions, I will do them in the chat. As I say, I'm off to Derby in just a little bit to hopefully see England's all-time top scorer, Wayne Rooney, and I hope they stick him in central midfield and he just wanders around taking the mick, not running and pinging 50-yard balls. That would amuse me. It probably wouldn't amuse Derby fans because probably not what they need at the moment. You can follow me on Twitter. Josh says, do I think Forest will go up? Not automatically. If you'd have asked me before that bad run, when they started leaking goals, I'd have said Forest were probably playoff favourites on the basis they'd be really hard to score against over the 3 potential playoff games. Trent says, thoughts on Derby not paying players on time? Yeah, this has come through today, that Derby haven't paid their guys on time. Obviously, the headline looks very bad when you see that, so I'd need to look at the reasoning. We know Mel Morris has been on a knife edge before, and the stadium sale is something that's really helped with the competing with parachute money. Whether or not they're actually in financial trouble, or whether he has to kind of do a Middlesbrough and just pull everything in and say, look, we can't afford this anymore. Morris strikes me as a gambler, though, so yeah, could be bad news for Derby at all. Will Derby have to sell Rooney themselves to pay his wages? I think Rooney in the end will actually make Derby a profit with all of the endorsements and things from 32 Red. Nick says, did I see Ben Rama's rainbow flick? I haven't seen it. Someone tweet me at Benjamin Bloomer. Look, you know I'm a fan of Ben Rama. I know what to expect here. Someone asked about Fulham's loan players. I don't know if there's any break clauses in any of those deals. Strangely, though, they've been out of the team, haven't they, the 2 wide players? So who knows, especially with Clark and Nketiah going back from those. Josh asked, do you think if Brentford sell some of the best players, they'll drop? That's been the pattern over recent years, hasn't it? And I think the other thing with Brentford and the sales as well, it's not necessarily been who's been sold. It's been how they've been sold and when they've been sold. That a lot of them have kind of dragged out and then they've not had time to replace. I know they don't go and buy straight away to replace. They've essentially already got their replacements. But it would kind of be nice to see Ben Rama and De Silva and Watkins, Janvier, Pinnock, you basically name 7-8 of their team of young, valuable players, all stay, and for them to have a good tilt at the playoffs, or even the top two if one of Leeds and West Brom's going to fall away. But we know the Brentford model, and they do have to sell. Although Brentford fans always tell me in the feed here that the books look good now, and the stadium's all bought and paid for, and is going to be making more money with the tickets and the hospitality. Chiming in, Brentford only sell when it's comfortable to do so. So maybe they don't need to, but they've had good prices, haven't they? So it kind of makes sense to sell in those instances. Right, I think that should just about do us. Thank you to everybody. Nick says only 3.3 million in debt. God, you're talking to an Ipswich fan about debts, but yeah, don't even start me on that. Right, I will go and make myself clean because I've been in bed all day doing absolutely nothing. Colin says, as a Leeds fan, I hate financially responsible clubs. Well, Leeds are a very financially responsible club, so there are a few in there. And if you look up at the top of the table, really, where are the parachute teams? West Brom are second, Fulham are fifth, and then we're going down. Swansea are 10th and Cardiff are 12th. And it's been that way. Remember, it's only Villa who were parachute funded last season. So I think, fingers crossed, it's getting less and less ridiculous. Luca asks, if Mitro leaves in January, do you think Fulham have a chance of getting promoted? If Mitro leaves Fulham, then I don't think they have a chance of getting promoted. But by the same token, I don't think Mitro is going to be leaving anywhere. I said this in my Priced Assets video. I don't see who signs Mitrovic because it's going to cost like 30 or 40 million pounds, isn't it? And I don't see a Premier League club gambling that, and they're the only people who've got that money. So I think Mitrovic safe there. Right. I've said goodbye a couple of times. I will say goodbye again. Check out tonight. I'll be at Derby. I'll do a match vlog. Hopefully Rooney does something fantastical that we can all chat about. And then get your ideas. And I don't know what I'm going to do for FA Cup weekend. I don't really do weekends off, so maybe I'll get to a game. We will see what happens. Right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Brilliant input, as always. Really, really helps getting the actual supporters of teams and people who've been at games. Really, really is helpful. People say, I know a lot, but it's all information coming from you guys. Trent says, hopefully he doesn't. Derby scumbag. There you go. Oh, come on. It's Rooney. Grilly, do you think QPR will ever move? That stadium must be worth a fortune. It really depends with QPR how engaged the owners are, and can they find anywhere. That's a gold mine around there, isn't it? Anywhere to move to. You can see them ending up out at Heathrow or something, can't you? I tell you what, Brentford have got a great plot, haven't they, by the flyover there. So you could see Brentford well overtaking QPR there in the future, can't you? Right, the 15th goodbye. Thank you everybody for watching, and we will see you. One more point, Josh says, don't write Barnes off. I'm not writing Barnes off. Really looking forward to seeing Connor Chapman. Right, Happy New Year, everyone. Check out the Rooney game. We should mention Derby and Barnsley are actually playing in it, but check that out later, and I will see you all very soon. Over and out.